Good morning. Good morning. Ramona McKee here, quick to stitch, coffee and conversation. Listen, the dogs are playing this morning, so they might get a little loud. But no matter, we're still going to talk about patches, honest. So, yeah, we're going to talk about patches. Earlier this week, I posted a What's Under the Needle video and it was making patches. And several of you had questions on how to make those patches. So that's what we're going to do today. Good morning, Diane. So good to see you. Good morning. Um, what kind of patch are we going to make? Well, oh, look, it's right there. Who knew? We're going to make, ta-da, a quick to stitch patch. Um, Only because, I am quick to stitch. Oh, what a week. What a week. So how do I make patches? Well, we're going to start with the digitizing and we're going to end with the final cleanup. Hey, Doug. Doug's here. Good morning, Doug. Good to see you. Good morning. All right. Now, because a lot of this has to happen at the machine and then later the heat press, I created a video. Now, it runs really fast, but I did that so that I could stop it in sections and talk about whatever's going on at that particular moment. So the video has no sound. I'm going to be the sound. If you have a question regarding what I'm doing at that particular moment, and I know that there's a delay, so if necessary, we can go back, but ask the questions. All right. So, and I recorded the actual digitizing too. Let me go to here and bring this up here. All right. Take a sip of coffee here. And let's start. Okay. So, the first thing I do is I create an outline circle of the size of the patch I want. Just a simple running stitch. We'll use that circle again later, but it helps me size out the graphic that I want to put in the center of it. Now we're going to do a little typing here. We're going to add some text, change our settings, change our spacing. We're going to lay the text in. If you look, I'm kind of doing this patch backwards, inside out, top layer to bottom layer. And I do that so that I make sure everything fits. Going to change some of the spacing on the letters. Going to put my logo lettering up there. Size that to fit. Now, if got to get rid of that .com because it's totally different. If Eric were here, he would tell me that I need to manually digitize these lettering. But I like that little bit in the top of the letters. We'll get to that. Okay, so I put in my arrow because that's part of my logo. Changed its color to match. Layered it to stitch very first, and then put the lettering on top. Change the coloring. Now, if you look here, this is the part that I know Eric would say I should manually digitize that. Good morning, Barbs. Good to see you. Just doing a bit of digitizing. but I like the way it drops. So the only thing I did was I changed the location of the node so that I did not have a gap. So we change that, make sure everything's where we want it. Now what are we doing? Oh, now I'm duplicating my circles. Remember I said I was going to do that. I was going to use those circles later. At this point, I am going to pause again. Actually, I want to go back. Okay, so at this point, again, we're doing a patch, start to finish, the digitizing. At this point, I want to have a total of 4 circles. The first one is for placement. The second one is for tack down. If you've done applique, you know what this means. And the third one is the tack down. That one's kind of tricky because sometimes if I pre-cut the circles, they don't lay exactly where I need them. So I need to remove it so that I can relay it. But in this case, we're going to do our one patch in the hoop. So I did use the second circle because, it's just thread. And then the third one, I use a zigzag that is going to be slightly smaller than my satin column, my satin border. I use a 3 millimeter zigzag for my third piece, and that's just to give a little more reach into the fabric to secure it to my stabilizer. Oh, sorry, I got to make a note. Stabilizer. I put a list of the products that I used, and I forgot to include the stabilizer, but I'll go back and take care of that. So anyways, uh, these first 3 circles are going to stitch before the body of the patch. Okay? So we'll continue. And then the last one is going to be our border. Now my borders, I use a 4 millimeter border, and with that, I use a .3 density. Come along. Oops, I'm on the wrong screen. Hey Gail, good morning. I use a 4 millimeter border. I use a .3 density. I use an edge run underlay and a double zigzag. All of that is to build up the border. We'll continue. Going to make some minor adjustments here. Again, we're going to change our densities, our underlays. We're going to do our test stitch. I'm sorry, that's a virtual run. Make sure everything is in there correctly. Again, if you have any questions as we're going, just pop them over. And if we need to, we'll go back. Oops, that got a little quick. Okay. Have I tried? Doug wants to know. Let me go back here. Doug wants to know if I've tried a raised satin. I have used a raised satin in the past, and let me tell you what my opinion is regarding the raised satin. For those of you that don't know, a raised satin actually stitches 3 layers of satin, one over the other. It starts with a narrow satin, then slightly wider satin, and then your final column width satin. And it does raise up the satin and give it um, more body on the top. But the thing that I don't like about a raised satin is that everything that you put on top. Hi, Sherry. Hello from New York. Hello, Sherry from, where'd you go? Sherry from New York. Never too late. So going back to Doug's question, he was asking about using a raised satin on our border. And I was saying that a raised satin is 3 satin columns, one over the top. What I don't like about the raised satin is whatever you put on top also goes on the bottom. So your raised satin also has a bulk added underneath on the bottom side of your patch or your whatever your project is that you're using the raised satin. So no, raised satin is not my favorite. Um, I like building it up with a more open density. Now you could probably create your own raised satin um, and then change the densities, but you'd have to do those one satin at a time, one after the other. Okay. Hope that answered your question, Doug. Let's see. Oh, look, Letty's here. Good morning, Letty. Good morning. Letty, we're building a patch. So now that our patch is done, and it is because we went on to the next section, I am going to, and this is sped up, so we'll just go ahead. This is my fabric. You're welcome, Doug. This is my fabric. This is a twill fabric. I get my twill from the Embroidery Nerds. And again, you'll find a list of the supplies that I used in the description area on the YouTube. So I'm going to flatten out, smooth out my fabric because I'm going to cut a strip. And I'm making a 3-inch patch. I'm making a 3-inch patch, so I'm cutting a 3.5-inch strip. I'm also going to cut into this 3.5-inch squares. 3.5. Here I have a total of 5 patch fabrics, patch 3.5-inch squares. In our demonstration today, I only made 1 patch, but the 3.5-inch squares can be set aside for patches later. Now I'm going to prep my hoop. I'm going to use my magnetic mighty hoop. And I'm going to use this plastic film. This is Madeira's EZ Heat Away. What do they call it? Backing, I think is what they call it. EZ Heat Away backing. What that means is that if you put it under like an iron, it will heat away. When I do patches, I cut my stabilizer wide enough so that I can use 2 layers. I use 2 layers for the extra support. Now, I'm going to pull on this a little bit. I'm not worried about it puckering. It's plastic. So I'll pull on it, make sure it's all straight. And now I'm going to go to the machine. Remember, we're doing start to finish. So at this point, I have my patches digitized. What I didn't show you is I transferred it to a flash drive. to take to the machine. I have my fabric cut and prepped. I have my hoop prepped. Now I'm going to the machine. And at the machine, we're going to go home. And then, I don't know if you caught that, very, very important. Watch this button right here. We are going to trace. We are going to trace. And now I've shown you the trace on the control panel. Now here's the trace in the hoop. We always trace, even if we're the most confident person in the world and we know that that design file is going to stay in the hoop, we're going to trace, because the moment you don't is the moment you have problems. Now there's no fabric here yet, and that's by design. We're going to stitch our placement to tell us where to put the fabric. Then we're going to stitch our tack down to make sure that our fabric is in place. We're going to stop the machine and trim around the excess. And then we're going to proceed with stitching our third tack down stitch, and then go on to the rest of the machine, the rest of the design. Placement, fabric. I use a little bit of fabric adhesive. Let me go back a moment. When I'm prepping my Easy Heat Away stabilizer, and remember I said I use 2 layers, I layer it in such a way as the textured side, it has a smooth side and a textured side. I layer it in such a way that the textured side is what I'm going to lay my fabric on. It just gives me, it's like grippies. Um, just gives me the confidence that it's going to grip and hold the fabric. So now we're going to stitch our second circle. We're going to stop. I'm using my little tiny duckbills because they're easier to get into. Trim away. And this is our zigzag stitch. Of course, I moved the camera for you here so you can watch the stitch out. And of course, it's going fast because, we don't have 10 minutes to sit here and watch it. Hold on a second. I got a question here. Gail, I didn't know my machine could trace 2 ways. Not sure I know what you mean. I might have hit the trace button twice. I wanted to show you the trace on the control panel and then a trace on the hoop. So go ahead and clarify if you need to. And I'm going to go back to hit continue. Stitching, stitching, stitching. Now with the Easy Heat Away backing, you want to stitch the body of your patch first. You want to save that satin border to be very last. And the reason is because the idea is you're going to punch through the plastic so that when you're done, you can just pop it out of the hoop. No extra trip. Gail, I actually hit the trace button a couple of times. I wanted to make sure that I got it on the film. So yes, you want to make sure that that column stitch, that final satin, because remember it has a heavier density, it has multiple underlays. You want to make sure that it's last because you will punch through the backing. And again, that's another reason I use 2 layers, just for that added support. And so I don't punch through when I'm doing patches. If I'm doing multiple patches, I definitely want to make sure that I don't punch through, because then if I punch through on the first patch, I'm going to lose support on the second patch. Our satin, remember I had the edge lay, a double underlay, a dot 3 density on a 4mm column stitch. And once it's done, I take it out of the hoop, as you can see here, and it just tears right out. Now, remember I said this is a heat away backing. I've used 2 layers. That makes it difficult to heat all of that away. So and it only takes a moment, just like with a water soluble, you want to remove as much as you can before you rinse. I'm going to remove as much as I can before I heat. And I use my 3D Puff Pro tool. It's a handy dandy tool that can get into those spaces without causing any damage to the patch or the project. And I just get in there and get rid of the excess backing. Now I'm not gonna fuss and try to get into the lettering. Just taking away the big pieces. Doug wants to know what I do to get adhesive on the back. Well, Doug, that's coming up. One moment, please. So now I've cleaned the backing of the excess. I've cleaned the back of my patch of the excess backing. And, oops, are we moving? Yep, now we're going to the heat press. Okay, big mistake here. I used paper. Should have been a Teflon. You're going to see why in a minute. I used the paper. Doug wants to know about pricing. We'll get to that in a minute. Um, so anyways, my heat press is on. It's at temperature. I'm going to lay my patches out on my protective paper. Again, it should have been Teflon. I pressed my quick to stitch patch just to get rid of the excess moisture. This is the patch run that I did earlier. I needed to put adhesive on the back, so I'm adding that to this. Might as well, right? No sense in heating up the press for just the one piece. Now, once I have my patches laid out, I'm going to put my adhesive over the top. Did you notice that the patches were backside up? And you do that so that your adhesive um, goes on the backside. I use Lone Star adhesive. Again, that is going to be in the description of my supplies that I've used. One of the things that, if you go to their site and watch the video regarding this adhesive, it's forever. You're going to wear out the patch before you wear out the adhesive. It's amazing stuff. So, and I'm going to trim this away a little bit. I'm going to press, and I over pressed. I got distracted. And here's why you want to use Teflon. Look at how hard it is to pull that patch off of there. Yeah. Get my paper backing off. Then I'm going to use my scissors to trim away as much of that adhesive as I can without cutting into the satin column. And here I'm using I don't know, it's an igniter. It's just electric rechargeable igniter. And I'm using my spirit lamp. My spirit lamp, I don't like using a handheld Bic lighter. They get hot. Um, so I started using a spirit lamp, and I use 200 proof denatured alcohol in it. I use denatured alcohol because it burns cleaner. It doesn't leave a soot behind it. Okay, so we're going to light our, um, and then I'm just going to run the patch, the edge of the patch, and what that does is it melts that little bit of leftover adhesive so that I can tuck it under and tuck it behind. All right, we only have 5 seconds left in this video. Ta-da! And that is our video on how I make a patch start to finish. Now, Doug wants to know how I price patches. Next question from Doug. Have you tried doing the satin stitch on the adhesive after doing the body of stitching? Well, here's the problem with that. That means that I have to take everything back to the machine. I have to do another placement stitch. I have to lay the fabric in place that has now got the backing on it. I have to do the tack down stitch. If it's in the wrong place, I have to untack it, relay it, do another tack down stitch. The placement and the positioning is a little more difficult when you do it that way. Yes, it can be done, but it's a little more labor intensive. And I actually prefer, and it's not going to make that much of a difference, just in the labor. You're welcome, Diane. I hope that was helpful for you. So going back to Doug's pricing question, how do I price? Well, I have created the patch in my software, right? And over here, it's one of these buttons. Over here in the design information, I have programmed run times at how many stitches per minute. Now, at the longest, this patch would take 20 minutes to stitch. Shortest, it would be 14 minutes to stitch. And that's at 900 stitches per minute. And that's kind of what I use. My base is 900 stitches per minute, so this is a 14-minute patch. Nobody is going to want to buy this patch for $14, which is kind of how I price for my flat runs. So what I do is I split the fee in half. This becomes a $7 patch. Regardless, as long as I am stitching directly on fabric and not using a full stitch background, this is a 14-minute patch for $7. You're welcome, Sherry. So good to see you. Um, You have to keep that in mind. You can't do a dollar per thousand if you're doing, well, here, let's find out how many stitches that would be. A dollar per thousand. If we did a dollar per thousand for a fully filled patch, that is 16,875 stitches. That would be $16.87. Would you pay $16.87 for a 3-inch patch? Even at my 21 minutes for a fully filled patch, which would be $21, would you pay $21 for this patch? No, you wouldn't. But you would pay $10 for a fully filled patch or $7 for a fabric-based patch. The other thing you need to remember when you talk to your clients about pricing for patches is that you are making custom patches in a small run order. If they need 500 of these things, maybe you're up to it, maybe you're not. Those of us with a single head machine, we're not going to commit to 500 patches. You're going to recommend that they outsource overseas or outsource to another patch provider where they can get a better price. Good morning, Pam. Yes, Pam wants to know if she missed a lot. Yeah, we're at the end, Pam. I'm sorry, but you can go to YouTube. Are you at YouTube? You can go to YouTube and watch the whole thing. And Doug, you're right. Doug says he has a potential connection to movie and TV production, and they're willing to pay a lot more for short run, quick turnaround jobs. Yes, they are. They have the budget for it. If they're doing a um, a film that has a budget of $15 million, yes, they can pay $60 a patch. You have to have your production ready. You have to be able to digitize quickly and get it done. Um, and if that happens for you, thrilled, wonderful. But the average person off the street needing a single patch, or even a small organization that needs just small patch runs, they are not going to pay 60, 100, $200 a patch. $7 a patch is a good price. And you're right, Barb. That whole $1 per thousand stitches is 25-year-old pricing, and it still pops up occasionally. And for me right now, it was just a quick statement. But people, she's right that it's $1 per thousand is 25 years old, and inflation has not stopped 25 years ago. And Doug, you're right. Doug says that whole TV and movie thing, it's the advantages of living in the Los Angeles area. So, okay. Any other questions? Any other thoughts? Um, this today's presentation, today's broadcast was brought about because somebody asked how I make the patches. And I thought this would be a great opportunity to show from start to finish. Um, Last week, Barb wanted to know how to make fringe, so we did fringe. What I'm trying to say is that if you have a technique that you want to learn or an idea for a project, but you're not quite sure how to put it together, send me an email, send me a message. Let me know. I'll be happy to work it up and do a presentation for you. Let's see. Doug's got another comment here. Motorcycle clubs rocker panels get charged pretty well. Yes, they do. Now, the thing you have to remember with motorcycle clubs, they are very particular. Um, they may have, for example, I know of a club in this area who has a font that they use for their rifles, for their rockers that is um, copyrighted to them, and they do not allow uh, anybody to randomly create patches for them. They have a patch maker that they use. So a club member cannot go to Jane Doe down the street who has an embroidery machine to make their patches for them. So you need to be vetted and qualified to do patches for a lot of these clubs. Um, I myself do support patches, which is different than the actual official patch. Um, and for those, I just needed to prove out my quality, my patch quality. So that's another thing you can look at. Cindy, Cindy, good to see you. Cindy, yeah, watch the replay. Let me know if you have any questions. And Gail says that she's working with a motorcycle club now. And yes, they usually have a larger budget. But again, you don't want to be so extreme that you price yourself out of the job. All right. All right. So again, if you have any thoughts, any ideas, anything that you want to um, for me to cover, just send me a message and we'll get it done. All right then. We're gonna say no, Cindy, I'm not. Oh, Cindy wanted to know if I was going to Impressions in Dallas this year, and I'm not. I blew my travel budget on Impressions Long Beach, which I can't do that next year. So next year, if all works well, I will be at Dallas next year. I know. I know. I'm gonna miss you too. You're welcome, Gail. I'm glad you got something out of it. Cindy, we'll see you. We'll see you soon. We'll see you. I promise. All right. So we're going to say goodbye. We'll see you all next week. Bye now. Fun? Do you have more questions? Do you want to learn something new? Join me at quicktostitch.com for coffee and conversation, and we'll talk about it. Embroidery machines, designs, and business. Hope to see you soon. Bye now.